There are places on this planet where freedom doesn't end with bars. It vanishes into the ground, where justice depends on what passport you carry, and mercy is just another currency. Every nation has its own idea of punishment, but behind every wall, one truth remains. Once you're locked up, the rules of the outside world don't matter. Tonight, we'll step inside 4 prisons, each more brutal, more bizarre, and more revealing than the last. From Thailand's tiger's cage, to Brazil's gang-run labyrinth, to the frozen silence of Russia's Arctic tombs, and the overcrowded chaos of the Philippines, where prisoners dance to stay sane. This is Locked Up Around the World. They call it Bang Kwang Prison. Locals call it something else, the Big Tiger. Because once you go in, it eats you alive. Built on the outskirts of Bangkok, it was never meant to hold this many men. Now more than 7,000 inmates live shoulder to shoulder, crammed into sweltering concrete blocks where the air barely moves. Every door here is iron. Every night here lasts forever. Among them, a 26-year-old British backpacker named Ryan. He was caught with heroin at the airport, a sentence that meant life. Ryan thought he'd get a fair trial. He didn't know Thai prisons have a saying: judgment is the easy part. Survival is the sentence. The cell was built for 20. 40 men shared it. They slept in shifts, stacked like corpses. The floor slick with sweat and mildew. Ryan's first week, he saw a man beaten unconscious over a pack of cigarettes. The guards didn't stop it. They watched. But in this chaos, Ryan found a strange way to live, not by fighting, but by teaching. He began tutoring Thai inmates in English, helping them write letters to their families. In exchange, they gave him food, protection, and respect. Little by little, he became part of the system, a small order carved out of madness. In the Big Tiger, there are 2 kinds of prisoners: those who fight the cage and those who learn to live inside it. Brazil has more than 800,000 prisoners, and less than half of them are under real government control. The rest? They belong to the gangs. For decades, the most feared name in Brazil's prisons was Carandiru. In 1992, after a riot, police stormed the compound. In less than an hour, 111 inmates were dead. They called it justice. The survivors called it a massacre. That massacre birthed something darker: a network of organized prison gangs that rule from the inside out. They run drug routes, order hits, and even negotiate with politicians. When Diego, a low-level street dealer, was arrested in Sao Paulo, he thought prison meant punishment. He was wrong. It meant initiation. The guards opened the gate, pushed him inside, and walked away. Inside, the inmates ran the show. Each block was its own world. Taxes, rules, discipline. No weapons unless approved by the command. Food, water, and protection all came through the hierarchy. If you broke the code, you were gone by morning. To survive, Diego joined the Red Command, Commando Vermelho. He cleaned floors, carried messages, and proved loyalty with silence. In time, he rose, not through violence, but through trust. He became what they called a contado, a communicator between cells, relaying orders and money from the outside, in a place where every guard could be bought, and every word could mean life or death. Diego learned the one skill that mattered most: diplomacy. Prisons like these don't break societies. They mirror them. Because when corruption rules outside, order must find its own form inside. Thousands of miles from civilization lies Penal Colony No. 6, a high-security prison deep in the Siberian permafrost. Locals call it the Polar Tomb. Temperatures drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius. The sun disappears for months. And the men sent here are meant to be forgotten. Among them, Ivan Morozov, a former journalist arrested for speaking out against corruption. His crime was his words. His sentence, 12 years of silence. Every day begins the same. At 6 a.m., the siren howls. Men line up outside their barracks, frost clinging to their eyelashes. Their breath freezing midair. Inside, rules are carved into routine. No talking in line. No eye contact with guards. No questions. If you're caught whispering, you're placed in isolation, a concrete box where time stops. Ivan spent 47 days there once. No light. No sound. But even silence couldn't hold him. He started tapping on the walls, slow, coded knocks. To his shock, someone tapped back. It was another inmate 2 cells away. Together, they built an underground network of communication through Morse code. Letters sent through walls. They called it the echo. And through those echoes, Ivan kept his sanity. He wrote news articles from memory. Messages of defiance and hope, transmitted from one frozen tomb to another. In Siberia, men freeze to death with their eyes open. But for those who still dare to think, freedom is just another word for memory. The Manila City Jail was built for 1,000 men. Today, it holds over 5,000. At night, the inmates sleep shoulder to shoulder. Some standing, some sitting, some taking turns to lie down. There are no cells here, just bodies and chaos. But out of that chaos, something strange, almost beautiful, began. It started in Cebu. A warden named Byron Garcia introduced a program to keep inmates from fighting. He called it rehabilitation through rhythm. Every morning, the prisoners danced. Hundreds of them. To Michael Jackson, to local pop songs, to drum beats echoing through concrete walls. It became a global phenomenon. The dancing inmates of Cebu. One of them, Michael, was a street kid who'd spent half his life stealing to survive. When he arrived, he thought the dance program was a joke. But over time, it gave him something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. He said, "When we dance, nobody cares what we did. For those few minutes, we're not prisoners. We're people." Under the heat, the sweat, the overcrowding, these men found a strange kind of freedom. Not from walls, but from shame. In Manila, redemption doesn't wear a suit. It dances barefoot on cracked pavement. From the jungles of Thailand to the frozen wastelands of Siberia. From the samba-soaked alleys of Brazil to the sweat-drenched cells of Manila. Every prison tells a story. A story of hunger, of hope, of human beings stripped to their essence. Faced with the question no one wants to answer. Who are you when there's nowhere left to run? These walls don't just hold bodies. They hold choices. Every cell a confession. Every lock a lesson. Every scar a signature written by time. Inside, the air smells of rust and regret. Some men curse the world that put them there. Others curse themselves. But the rare few, they start to listen. Because every prison, no matter how cruel, has a heartbeat. It hums in the footsteps of guards, in the whispered prayers after lights out, in the distant echo of chains clinking like wind chimes of the damned. If you listen closely, beneath the shouting, the silence, the songs, you'll hear one voice. The same voice in every language, in every country, in every cell block. The voice of the forgotten. The voice of the defiant. The voice of those who've lost everything, but still refuse to lose themselves. Because prison isn't just steel and concrete. It's a mirror. And that mirror doesn't show you who you were. It shows you what you've become. And sometimes what you still can be. In Thailand, Ryan learned that education isn't escape, it's endurance. When the big tiger roared, he stayed silent and wrote. He built peace with paper and pen, turning fear into focus and punishment into purpose. He once said, "The walls didn't get smaller. I just learned how to grow inside them." In Brazil, Diego found that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Inside the chaos, he discovered order. Among killers and thieves, he became a diplomat. He learned that leadership isn't about being feared. It's about being followed by choice. He built his reputation not through fists, but through fairness. And when he walked free, he carried the discipline of the cell block into the boardroom. He said, "Prison didn't make me a better man. It reminded me I still had the choice to become one." In Russia, Ivan discovered that silence can be louder than rebellion. In the frozen dark, where even breath turns to frost, he found a new way to speak. A code tapped on walls, a pulse of defiance that spread like wildfire through concrete veins. The guards heard nothing, but the prisoners heard everything. He learned that freedom isn't always visible. Sometimes it's a rhythm between two heartbeats, a whisper through walls that says, "You are not alone." And in the Philippines, Michael danced through despair. His cell became a stage. His chains became rhythm. Every move a rebellion, every spin a prayer. He danced not to escape, but to remind himself that he was still alive. When asked why he kept dancing, he said, "Because if I stop moving, the walls win." Different worlds, different names, same truth. Freedom isn't a location, it's a decision. It's the moment you stop letting the past write the rest of your story. It's choosing to rebuild, even when no one believes you can. It's the quiet, stubborn belief that pain doesn't have to be permanent. Because no matter where you are, Bangkok, Sao Paulo, Siberia, Manila, the hardest prison isn't the one made of bars. It's the one built inside your mind. Narrator, firm but emotional. There's a saying whispered in every corner of the world. From death row to dorm blocks. From lifers to lost boys. You can lock away a man's hands, but never his hunger to be free. That hunger is dangerous. It drives revolutions. It rebuilds broken men. It turns criminals into creators, and inmates into inventors. Freedom, real freedom, doesn't begin when the gates open. It begins the moment you realize the world can take everything from you, except your will. Because freedom isn't something you earn. It's something you choose. Every single day. You see, time doesn't stop in prison. It just changes shape. Minutes become mirrors. Days become questions. Years become answers you wish you'd found sooner. Some men walk out older. Some never walk out at all. But the ones who do, the ones who come back stronger, they carry something priceless. The understanding that redemption isn't erasing your past. It's rewriting your future with what you've learned. Ryan now teaches business ethics to ex-inmates. Diego runs a logistics firm that employs former gang members. Ivan writes for international human rights groups. And Michael, still dancing, leads workshops for prison youth. Different paths, same purpose. They are living proof that cages can't contain character. That even in the darkest places, light finds a way to shine. And that hunger, that restless spark that refuses to die, that's what makes us human.